Good evening, everybody. We Paddy from across the shock with the motley crew at the end of the month, as always. Well, it's the end of the month before the Jack Wolf knife, which is a new moment in time that happens every month. I have got wee Judd doing the controls. I have um, Ben from Jack Wolf Knives, as always on this program. Thank you very much, Ben. We really appreciate your time. And we have Dan the Sackman on the other pod there. So tonight is very special because we're going to talk about an extremely precious knife that I have here in my hand. This is a Cyborg, which is just about to be released. Oh, beautiful. This is just about to be released this month. And this is a completely new design. This was done by Ben from whatever Sweetie Mice is running about his head. He designed this, and this is just an immaculate knife, a lovely knife. We'll get to that in a wee second. Now, after Ben has given us, we're going to ask him to describe his thoughts when he was making this knife. And then he has very kindly brought along some of his own collection. So, Ben, tell us a wee bit about Cyborg.
So this is the Cyborg Jack. And, I don't draw all the knives at once. I've sort of been working on them one after the other since I started. This is one of the most recent. And so as I was drawing what I consider the classic slip joint patterns, you start to have ideas about how you would do something unique of your own. It's inevitable. And when I sat down to draw this knife, it was with a blank slate. I wasn't trying to do my own interpretation of an existing knife. And I had gotten, I think, better at drawing these knives starting from the inside out. So I usually start with the bolster, I locate the screw, I locate the tang and the spring and the whole critical mechanism. And then from there, sometimes I go down and draw a handle, or sometimes I go up and draw a blade. In this case, I just started with a good old-fashioned square-shaped bolster, and I drew the blade I saw in my mind. And what I didn't have in the catalog really was like this sort of rhino-looking clip point. I'm not sure what it's called. I just, no. I just wanted it to look just like this. So usually what I do is I'll draw the blade straight up in the air, like pointing to the ceiling, and then I'll rotate it to the closed position. And it's not always the same degree of rotation, but it's usually around 170 degrees, more or less. And when I had basically what was a blade sitting at an angle and the tang geometry in the spring, then you can kind of draw the handle in around it. And I was just struggling to get the curves that I thought it needed. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to stop being constrained by sort of the traditional aesthetic a little bit, and I'm going to use a design style that appeals to me, which is things that are angular or geometric. But you've got to be careful there because your hand typically doesn't want things that are angular and geometric inside of it, So it's just a exercise in putting in all the lines until where I thought they were just the right spots so that it had a functional shape, not too many sharp corners, leaving enough meat for you to pinch, making sure the nail nick was in a place that looked good, and not only in the closed position, but the nail nick also has to look good on the blade. Won't that look funny with the nail nick way down here, for example? And then, having this blade sort of tie in right there at the bottom, but not sticking out so you can catch your finger on it. And then really visualizing how to soften what would be the sharp points by adding all these chamfers and stuff. And so I just sort of let my imagination go. And when I was realizing what was happening down here, I kind of thought like, well, wouldn't it be cool to take this angle and offset it here? It looks like someone took a square and bent it.
Yeah. And
then, I just basically took this aesthetic here and brought it to the top bolster. And when I was done, I was like, man, I'm really proud of this and I really like it. I think it's neat. But I had no real confidence that the traditional knife guys would be into something like this because it's different. So I figured that this would be the one that if the modern knife guys were buying my stuff, I figured this was the one that they would be attracted to. Now, fast forward, what are we on, about month 8 here? It's definitely modern knife guys that are buying my stuff, regardless of the design. So when I came out with this one, it's so far, at least based on the feedback from social media content, extremely well received, because I think it is giving them even more of what they like to see and are familiar with.
Isn't that fantastic? It's bringing completely new people into slip joints. Whether they're traditional or modern, who cares? Just get in and enjoy the ride, have both. And I'm enjoying both, just speaking for myself.
Yeah, it's been probably the most rewarding thing for me. Well, one of many is when people say, like, I was never a slip joint guy, but, insert the reason they liked whichever one. Or, oh, this makes me think of the knife my dad gave me when I was a kid, but I just never saw a slip joint that worked for me. So I could never get the emotional connection. And so this design, I believe for sure is going to pull some people off the sideline. Like, I've read numerous comments of guys who are like, this is the one. Like, this is the one that's going to get me. Like, this is the one that's getting me off the sideline. So honestly, I couldn't be more excited about drawing more sort of, futuristic looking knives, but it's going to stay grounded in the design language we're used to seeing. Like, at least in the beginning, I don't want it to look wholly unfamiliar. I still want it to look like a traditional knife, just one that, has a more of a futuristic aesthetic.
Were you worried about this one, Ben? I remember when we were talking about the dog leg, you were kind of worried about it.
With the dog leg, I had the benefit of having taken it to shows, and I had like something to base my opinion on. There's maybe 5 or 6 people that ever seen this. So the worry is simply I have like no sense based on feedback of how this is going to go. So it's either going to be, and it's polarizing, presumably. So it's either going to be like a big win or a total dud.
Did you lose sleep over it?
Yes. Yes, well, I did.
Can I just say, slap it up, you? You deserve it for not telling us about it. Here we are, plugging you for all kinds of clues, and you still didn't let anything slip. Nothing. Not even a wee squeak of information about the new one. Now, I told you at the beginning of this that I was going to give you a hard time, so consider this a hard time. Ben, you should be ashamed of yourself, really, honestly. Not giving us a heads up, for goodness sake.
I guess I'll be going to bed with no supper tonight.
Yeah, you see, as far as when you're designing a knife, because obviously I know nothing about designing a knife. You see the pivot here and your relationship with the blade coming this end. Is this pivot, have you got, now that you're making knives on a regular basis, have you got a set distance you can put your pivot every time so you know you're going to get it right? Or is that something you have to work out every time?
So that's a great question. Now, think about, for example, so this is a Great Eastern teardrop or bullet end.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't see where the pivot is on this because they're blended. Now, if you knew where the pivot was on this, it's not centered or in some aesthetically pleasing place. They place those pivots for the mechanism to work the best. But on one of mine, if I want to have what I think is an aesthetically pleasing bolster, I can't have the screw down in the corner. It looks funny, and the screw is something you can see. And so I've sort of figured out, and I actually have a little spreadsheet I came up with where basically it says, okay, if I want the bolster to be, let's say 18 millimeters wide or 16 millimeters wide, you're never really going to end up with the screw right in the middle. If you want this detail to look right, where the knife comes out of the handle, like you don't want the bolster way out here.
No.
That'll look weird, right? You want the blade to be coming out near the corner.
Yeah.
But that has to do then with how wide the tang is underneath here. And so then you have this relationship between the width of the tang and the width of the spring, and the center of the tang dictates the location of the hole. So I try to keep this screw 55% of the distance over. I don't do 50-50. It's usually like 55. So 55%. So if you figure out where to put that circle then is the center of the tang, and the tang is more or less 2/3 the size of the spring. And so like there's these rules that have to be respected in here. It's confusing, honestly, and it took drawing a lot of these to really start to figure out how to hammer that down quicker than and with less, crumple it up and throw it outs that I used to do.
Very technical.
It is.
But
The thing I like about it, and I've sort of given it a name myself, I'm sure you have as well, but I love this bit here where it comes down straight, and then you have like a little waist, and then she flares back out again. It's like a corset shape where it narrows down. That is just unusual to see.
I remember when we were looking at it, Stephen, we thought on all the Instagram pictures and everything, it looked like quite a substantial knife, a good big chunky knife. But when you got it in hand and when you let me see it, it's so slim and elegant. It's that pinch at that sort of waist of the corset as you come, it sort of gives it that slimming effect on it. It's very, very unusual.
Yeah, what I ended up doing when I drew that was it didn't look just right if this thing was perfectly straight, like a straight line and then an angle and then a cut. And so I ended up basically rotating the whole handle over, and then it came up to here, and then I rotated it again. And when you rotate the handle, the whole thing drives inwards, and so it was just this like balancing act of getting it to look right and look interesting and have all these gentle but visible changes in direction.
I think genuinely it's one of them knives you pick up, and for the first few days you have it, you spot something new or something different about it than all your other knives. And that's really exciting.
Yeah, and to your point, Justin, it is slender. It's long, it's 4 inches long. So same size as a Benny's clip, but different in the hand.
I think it's just such a lovely knife. I can't wait for it to get out in the public. I think I'm obviously Ben's excited, but I'm excited to see what people think of it and see whether so far what I've heard on the people who are reviewing it, I don't think there's anybody that dislikes it at all. Again, I haven't heard any bad reports about it.
No, it's, I think the only reason someone wouldn't like it is if it just doesn't do it for them looks wise. But if you're attracted to it, I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed with the performance or the action, or when you get it in hand, how it feels and how it looks. Like it's better in person than it is on the internet.
It is. It's a lot.
In hand, it's unbelievable because you're right. It is exactly the same size as the Lanny's clip. They're exactly the same size, but yet this one, even to look at straight on, looks as if it should be smaller, and it's not. It is 4 inches in hand. It is. I have a large hand, and it's just the most perfect grip. But Justin, who has a much smaller hand than I have, I think we showed it in the video. His hand, he just couldn't believe how comfortable he was. So that's the extreme from small to large is fantastic in grip.
Tiny little girl hands.
Now, what I'm interested to see, because this was a bold choice, are guys going to be willing to buy the pink?
I would buy it every day of the week. I just thought it was fantastic.
I agree with Stephen. I think it's fantastic, but I wouldn't buy it, honestly. I just think it's amazing looking, though. And I have to give you kudos for having the balls to do that. That was amazing.
It definitely takes a pair, but
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I like you know,
But
I don't have to wear dress shirts anymore, but when I used to for a previous job, I always liked wearing a pink button-down shirt. I think they look great.
It would be perfect, really.
Yeah,
but also the women, that would attract a woman to buy this knife.
man, I hope so. You know, but like, look at all the stuff guys buy. Like, they buy those Desert Warrior knives with pink knives with sprinkles on
And
them.
I don't fathom them. I don't know why somebody would want one of them.
They're
Is
so
it?
popular. I think the pink came out really good, and I hope it doesn't linger. I hope guys will take the plunge on it. I mean, look at that.
It's just stunning. Ben, is that the US manufacturer that's doing that carbon fiber?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
pink is from camo carbon, and the green and yellow is from fat carbon out of Lithuania. And then all the dark matter series, this being dark matter orange, is from Lithuania as well. What's that?
Do you have the micarta?
Yes. Lest we not forget the
Oh, that's
black.
lovely.
And it goes really good with this knife too. I'm sorry, that was black, and this is green.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry, the blue. Is that the American one then as well?
The
blue-
Pacific Blue Vampire was from the American manufacturer, camo
Right.
carbon.
That is lovely too. I must admit, I have to say I like that.
And I'll tell you what, they have some really neat colors. So I'm excited to try a lot of their catalogs. So you'll see a lot of cool stuff coming down the pike from me.
Yeah, the one that I've seen that people have got on other knives is the sort of 60s vibe. Have the 60s, 80s they call it now. I think 60s. People now call 80 the old stuff.
Yeah.
But that is fantastic looking. Where you've got the multitude of colors,
Mhm.
just super.
Yeah, and what's really neat, we might have talked about this before, but the carbon fiber looks different whether it's flat or contoured.
Yeah,
And with
Yeah.
my stuff, it's on a contour, so it reveals the layers.
and it moves. You actually feel it. You know, you can see it moving. It's lovely.
Yeah, depending on the light, you'll either get a gray or a black on the
Yeah.
layers that are not the color.
Yeah.
And you can put, for anybody listening, if you want to change sort of how it's looking, just take a little bit of oil on a rag, and just wipe it down. And you'll bring out some of the depth of that carbon fiber too. It's kind of neat.
Have you thought of something that's going to be your trademark?
Apart from
I
the
don't
wolf?
know. The brand, hopefully the brand is recognizable and the aesthetic, so that, let's just say there was a design I came out with and you hadn't seen it on the internet and someone pulled it out of their pocket, you'd be able to say, is that a Jack Wolf? Like, that's what I want.
I think that's all.
There. Yeah.
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 And so, but as far as like the way Nick, who's Birdviz Nice, he has that shtick where he does the mineral oil wipe on his stuff. I don't have anything that cool yet. I'll keep thinking about it.
Yeah, he also has the shield, which is his own too, which looks lovely.
Yeah, that's right. He does have his own shield.
Would you consider shields on your knives?
Yeah, I think my thought about that is, obviously my goal is to change something about each knife upon re-release. And so I didn't want to try to implement everything all up front, because first of all, you can make something too busy, or just you trying too hard, and I also want to have some things to rely on down the road. So I'll have to prototype with that, because obviously we're now talking about something that has to be fit to perfection, because as you know, when you're buying slip joints, that's an area of critique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, if it's not going to be done right, I'm not going to do it. Hopefully they can pull it off, but down the road.
Here's a question just came to my head. What did your wife think of the pink color?
Oh, she loved it. She's typically not into the things that are super vibrant. Like, she'll like the dark matter series with the hint of color.
Yeah.
But there was no denying that when we had all these pink knives laid out on the dining room table, when we were inspecting them all, they were breathtaking, honestly.
Yeah.
Something occurs to me, Stephen, before you go on, and before we leave it, in terms of the shield and everything, And I mean, because Dan, we were talking about it a couple of weeks ago as well. I'm just wondering, actually, what about laser etching on the titanium bolsters?
Well, what would you want to see there?
Your
Like
wolf
on a
head,
Barlow,
your wolf head,
on the bottom bolster?
yeah, or either or. Well, you've got the pivot pin in the top bolster, but in the end cap, if they're big enough,
Could it be done? Yes, I presume so. It's it's a touch that you've never seen on a normal traditional knife. Like if there's going to be a marked bolster, it's a Barlow. So I I had not considered it. I don't particularly lean towards like things that are, they'll call it like a billboard, where you'll have a blade and it has just like an etch that goes all the way across with some kind of picture or some kind of text. It's not my personal liking. I kind of think less is more. I think what I would probably lean in the direction of if I was going to do anything with titanium would be some sort of milling pattern. So like the tool would, make passes and put some kind of pattern in the titanium, whether it be like just striations or depending on the
flaking or
knife,
something.
you
Yeah.
could do like a checkering pattern or something like that. You can get really creative with artistic milling on these CNC machines.
Yeah, that would be interesting to experiment with, if nothing else.
You see,
We've got the wee worm in there now. It's going to start mixing with all the other little creative things that happen in your brain.
I would be a bit more old school. I like a lined bolster or end cap. That would be my limit of on these type of knives that I would want on it, I have to say. But
Now,
hey,
I toyed around with a line on these, but I was like, it doesn't need it because
no,
the angle here creates a unique line.
damn it, but I can see it now. It's in
Yeah.
my head.
Well, and who's to say the next time I do this, I don't add it? But it was the first.
Exactly.
It was the first release with a smooth bolster,
And
and so
I think it looks fantastic, but I can see that line in another version,
Yeah.
maybe down the line would look
It's just
smashing.
it's just like the simple line on the vampire there is just
yeah, just
line
one,
across
just
that
one line. Yeah,
on either end,
it would look good.
Yeah.
It would look good.
But it would just the angular again. It would really add an essence on that angular sort of shape.
See, this is
But
what happens in
anyway,
this podcast or in this recording every time Ben comes along with his fantastic knives and we tell him how to make them better.
what about you, Dan? Have you got anything you want to ask before I go on to sort of move this on a wee bit?
I would just take that knife and just take it to the next level. That would be like, honestly, that would be like that. That would have a file back with like multicolored resins in it, and that would have like anodized blades. That would be like Back to the Future on steroids. That would just be like all of the top of that would be filed in different colours, and then the etching in. You'd have like a vampire Jack Wolf on the bolster. Not obviously it's not a vampire one, you know what I mean? You'd have each one but would have its own little thing. It'd just be complete overkill, complete glamour, and it would just be like almost 60s psychedelic. I would just take that and just make it like
See, here we have both ends of the spectrum.
Never talk to me again. If he sent me that, and never look at me again.
Minimalist and extremist. Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
Brilliant, yeah.
But I like the fact that you actually true to what you say. You do it to your own knives.
Yeah.
Ben will say this quietly. He will never be getting a Jack Wolf knife.
Never. No, I can't because the M390 is too hard for my metal files. I can't touch the blade. I can't do anything to the blades. I need diamond, and I don't have a lot of diamond stuff. So
when does this thing come out?
So
Or Jack?
This Friday, the 18th, 2 p.m. Eastern time, which is 11 a.m. Pacific time here in the United States. And then in the United Kingdom, thank you, Andrew, for my Queen mug. Framar Knives will have it at the same time. So I think that's 7 p.m. England time.
Excellent.
And you know, I don't like to say you better watch out, they're gonna go fast. I don't like to talk like that, but simply based on the response on all the social media channels, I have a strong belief that these should go pretty fast.
Yeah.
So
Thank you with Frank and Andrew at Framar Knives, who are just amazing couple of people. They sell here really quickly. You're lucky the next morning if you get maybe one or two, but they'll maybe not be in the pattern you want or the handle material you want. So buy it at night time. Don't let it go to the morning and be disappointed.
yeah, usually there is a couple, 2 to 4 micarta ones left the following
Yeah.
day. Usually by the time the weekend's over, they're gone.
My God, yeah.
Can I just say that, I mean, fancy and tarty as the carbon fiber is, even in the pink, you can't beat the micarta. The micarta is outstanding. It really is. So
It has its own thing. You know,
absolutely.
it's if, you know, the carbon fiber just feels, I don't know, like almost feels like plastic. You wouldn't know it's carbon fiber if you had your eyes closed.
Yeah.
You know, but the micarta has a feel all its own.
Got a tactile quality all of its own. I think on this knife particularly, because it is such a modern look, the carbon fiber really stands out well in it. But the micarta is such a lovely warm material, I find. But that's just me. So up to yourselves, guys.
I think, like I have done, you can actually dye the micarta. It takes the dye absolutely fantastic, very smooth. I done this one when I first got it, and it is stunning. I just dyed it red.
That's a
So
brilliant
it
colour.
gives you another option with a knife if you want a specific color. It takes the dye beautifully. And the actual scales themselves, Ben, came off incredibly easy, went back on incredibly easy with no problem whatsoever. The fit and finish was very easy to line up. Ben, this is another exciting part for me. The knife, I just hope it goes as well as everything else. But I wanted to see a bit of your collection. And I know a lot of my subscribers really wanted to see some of the things that maybe inspired you to make knives yourself or in the process of making the knives you're doing now. So give us a little run through some of your beauties.
All right. So I spent some time thinking about which ones I wanted to bring out and show you guys. And I think I have to start with the pattern that really lit my fire, which is the Great Eastern Cutlery number 15.
Fantastic.
This is a TC Barlow with clip point blade and a long pull.
Very
And I think these are ebony, or maybe it's African blackwood. I just don't remember.
Usually
it's
ebony,
ebony.
weren't they?
Yeah, I think it's ebony. And this is just a beautiful pocket knife, you know. And there's things I really like about it. Just the shape, the way it looks, but I really like Bill Howard's clip points. They have a swoop. First time I had ever even seen a long pull, and I was like, man, that's cool. And I don't know, I just love these things. And what's really cool about this knife is that it's not just in clip points. Here's the Great Eastern Cutlery sheep's foot. You know, unashamedly, you will see inspiration in my Midnight Jack from this.
Yeah.
You know, long pull, swedge. His is you know, a similar height from here to here, where mine kind of gets a little more dramatic at the end, more like a ram's foot. But just overall, I love this blade. This one is Palo Santo wood.
Oh, very nice.
Yep. And so I just absolutely fell in love with these Barlows, even the non-Barlow versions that they call the boy's knife. And then my knife, the little bro, is my version of this, but not the bolster, you know, without the Barlow bolster. You know, who's to say I can't make a Barlow out of the little bro in the future? Obviously, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, yeah, I just wanted to show you guys the sheep's foot. This is the backside of it. And then last but certainly not least, the spear point.
Very nice.
So for you narrow spear guys,
Now you're
there it is.
talking, man. Now you're talking.
And it's got, so that's how they do the long pull on the spear. It's really cool. And this was, I don't know if you can still see it. There's the PPP right there.
Yeah.
Production Pattern Premiere. So this was the first TC Barlow, and this is saw cut
Cut
bone.
bone. Very nice.
Yeah,
The swedge on that spear point, it's gorgeous.
it is. I agree. Let me get in there.
I have the same one, but I dyed it. I dyed the bone red.
You see, you can't let him near anything. And he complains about Dan really. See?
But
Stan's a
send me
bad
that
influence,
knife,
probably.
Stephen, and I will absolutely take that apart. You will not. That won't even be brass when you get it back. That'll be stainless steel pins. Oh no, anodized purple. I will repin it in anodized purple and send it back with filed back like hacksaw's blade.
See, if you're gonna do it, Stephen, you may as well go the whole way.
Go the whole way.
No.
Stephen, sorry, Ben, absolutely gorgeous knives. When did you start collecting the Great Eastern Cutlery ones? The GC?
20, I think probably 2014 or 2015. I started getting my hands on these. They started making these TC Barlows in 2012, I think is the first year. In fact, I can confirm that, can't I, on the spear? 2012.
2012.
So they had been around for a little bit before I got my hands on one. And then once I got my hands on one, I was trying to get my hands on every single one. And once I discovered these Great Eastern Cutleries, I really found what I figured was my favorite stuff.
I'd agree. And it's funny, Ben, because the Great Eastern Cutlery seem to be dropping in price now on the secondary market.
Yeah,
You know,
I think we're seeing that across all the luxury goods, regardless. You know, it's just a sign of the economy. So I think it's good. Like there needed to be a reality check on some of this stuff.
So apart from GEC, what are some of the other brands that have stood out for you in your knife collecting? Because you're not really doing it at the minute, are you? You've sort of
No.
stepped back from knife collecting. Show us any of your standout collection that we could see that has inspired you just as a knife collector.
Yeah. So for production knives, I really just focused on Great Eastern Cutlery. I tried some other brands, some other things, just wasn't for me. Other than Chris Reeve on the modern side, I have a few of those. He makes left-handed knives. I'm left-handed, so that was
really
fitting. But I really also started to look at the custom slip joints. And that's like a natural progression that is easy to fall into when you're buying production slip joints. Because like you said, all of a sudden it's like the one you really want. Well, maybe that few-year-old Great Eastern, someone's got to get $400 for it. It's like, I'm not that far off from a custom at that point.
Yeah,
that's very true.
So you start rationalizing why to spend even more to get that custom knife. And so I could show you some of those. So here is, this is a Pena. And this is, you'll see some inspiration here for the clip point on the Cyborg. It's not the same.
Oh, yeah.
This is like got a saber grind.
Yeah.
If I can get that in the light. But it's got a really long clip. And this is a Tony Bowes design. He calls it the Warncliffe Trapper. Like this will sometimes have two blades, one with a Warncliffe and one with this clip.
Yes.
And this is about 3.5 inches closed. And
I think Case has the same. That's got the Warncliffe Trapper that Tony designed.
yeah,
that is beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What's the wood
So
on it, Ben?
This is bog oak. It's like a, petrified wood they yanked out of a bog.
Yeah. Stephen's got a couple in bog oak.
Yeah.
Yeah, Belkin do a lot in bog oak, didn't they? Like their jacks and stuff like that. And that's a beautiful wood.
They do. It is a fantastic.
Sorry.
He's very fond of bog oak. Actually,
Yeah.
Ashley Harrison.
There's nothing. It almost looks like carbon fiber, like a wood version of carbon fiber. It's just very special. Oh, there you go, Stephen.
That's an Elliott Lloyd. It's an American custom maker. But the clip on this, again, you can sort of see a little bit of it in this. Do you know Lloyd at all?
Yeah,
Jay,
yeah.
Jay,
He
Floyd.
he makes a lot of knives. He pumps them out.
Yeah, does he? Oh, that look at the shield on that. Can you see that? Okay,
Is that a bear?
Yeah.
it's a polar bear, and it
Yeah.
is so precisely put in here. It is outstanding, I have to say.
So obviously you can see the inspiration for that style of clip point blade that I drew. It has a different swedge, mine, and it doesn't have the flats here, but nonetheless, there's a relation. And then let's see what else. I'll show you a couple other GECs real quick because they'll dovetail into some of the customs. This is a Viper. This
Very
is the
nice.
GEC 47. And this was a SFO they did with Horween, who makes leather. Horween.
Is that
You
a
see that?
buffalo horn?
No, this is actually black. I think linen micarta.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And so they only made, I don't know how, they didn't make a whole lot of these. And then Horween never did another run of these. So just kind of cool. And, you know, who doesn't like this knife? Like, this is definitely one of their most popular knives, but it does have a more pronounced sway to it.
Yeah.
And it's big. It's a big knife. So, but it's a nice knife. And then I got this one because I've really fell in love with the pattern. This is from Brett Dowell in Oklahoma. This is ivory.
Beautiful.
Ooh,
This
very
is also a
nice.
sway back, but it's shorter. You know, it's, and I'll show you.
What?
Oh, it's a fair bit shorter.
Yeah, it is indeed.
It's shorter. And I really thought, like, man, that's a little more gentlemanly and a little more sort of, I don't know, less intense.
Classy.
Yeah, it's more classic, exactly. So
That bolster
took
is beautiful
inspiration-
without. Yeah.
yeah. So there's inspiration from these two in my laid back Jack.
Yeah.
I felt like he was a little less dramatic on his sway, and I like that. So yeah, this is a classic pocket.
It really is.
Very nice.
You know.
Is it brass liners, nickel silver bolsters?
So it is not brass liners. Everything is steel.
Yeah, I
What-
think, yeah.
Are the bolsters steel as well? It's hard to see on the photo. on
It's
the
all
video.
steel, and
Was
there's
it
a
steel?
flute. There's a flute.
It's lovely. That
So-
bolster. It's very
And a lot
nice.
of these guys, like, you'll see the bigger flute. Like, I don't know how far
that-
across it is. Probably maybe 4 millimeters across, if I had
Yeah.
to guess, something like
That
that.
is quite a hack, yeah.
I think they call that the rat's tail, don't they?
A rat tail, a flute. Yeah, there's a lot of different names, but they use a file and they go back and forth like a cylindrical file. And this, I think, is something to think about when we talk about close lengths. 3.5 inches, 4 inches. I mean, it's a half inch apart, right? They sound almost like there's no difference between them. Well, this is a 4-inch close GEC number 86. And I thought this was the best one out of this run, the Acorn Barlow. But like, look at it in size compared to the number 15. Like,
That's incredible.
they're different, you know?
They really are. I never thought that there was that much difference in the size.
Let me see if I can. You know, it's like this one is basically scaled up substantially. But when you look at numbers on a piece of paper, it does not tell the whole story, you know? And that 1/2 inch of handle really does equate to a different knife, not only in your hand, but in your pocket.
It really does.
So I just wanted to show that off because this is, you know, some people consider this the perfect everyday knife. Some people consider this too big. And so for me, having sort of a range from 3.5 inches to 4 inches is where I think the sweet spot is, with like the bullseye being that 3 3/4.
I love the 3.5, but yet that 2 Acorn Barlow is my favorite GEC. I got it in the red bone, like a soup bone. It's sort of all, it's my favorite GEC, full stop.
Well, it was unbelievable. Like the quality of these, you know, this is definitely blurring the line between a custom knife and a production knife. The spring on these, the blades, they killed it. So this.
Oh, wow.
This is from Ryu Kawamura in Japan. And he gets this
Oh,
crazy stag.
that is just popcorn. Just, oh,
It
He
really.
gets some of the best stag you've ever seen in the world.
that
at
is
that.
Fit and
stunning.
finish on that. Wow.
So this is
That
a
is
Tony Bowes. This is a Tony Bowes harness jack pattern.
gorgeous.
There's the mane.
Oh,
That's a spear point.
you can see your canine in that spear.
Yeah, we're starting to get into the fat spear territory here.
Yeah, we really are.
Beautiful.
And I want to see something really interesting. Look at the kick, or should I say the lack of a kick. See that?
Oh yeah.
It's hard to show you, but he does not use a kick right there.
Uh-huh.
Instead, in the blade well, there's
Is
a
there a pin?
hump on the
Oh,
spring.
yeah.
So the kick is basically built into the spring. This is the all.
Oh, very good.
Oh, damn, that's sexy.
Isn't that sweet?
Oh, that is gorgeous. When I love the oil in the 29, but that is just beautiful.
That's something else again. Never seen one like that.
Yeah, this is a Tony Bowes tribute, it's called. And
I'm sorry, but that's not an all. That's a shank. I'm sorry. Yeah.
yeah, and it needs to be sharpened to be properly used, but I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
This
No.
knife doesn't really see the light of day very often. It's too nice.
We
Look
are
at
privileged.
Look at the flute. You see the flute?
Barely,
It's
yeah.
stunning.
It's just that slim, narrow flute. And when I saw that, I was like, that's it. That's how I'm going to do the flutes. Because when you have the screw, I don't have another one of my knives with the flute, but you have the
There you go.
vampire.
Yep.
You know, look at that bolster.
Just-
So you look at that bolster and look how much of the surface area the screw is taking up. So
Yeah.
that big tall flute, like on those Brett Dahl knives, I thought would just look too crowded.
I think you're right.
So
You're quite
when I
right.
saw
Yeah.
the flutes on this Ryu, and even the way GEC does the flutes on these, I figured that's it right there. So it's definitely some inspiration there.
What else have you got for us?
All right, here's a dog leg. We're getting, so this is a dog leg, Brett Dowell, ivory,
Yeah.
fat spear territory. But it's
Yeah.
like, I think this is kind of middle of the road because it's got,
Yeah.
it's taller, but it still doesn't have a ton of belly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's funny. I mean, that again, that I'm really hesitant to say it because then it makes what I'm going to follow up with bad. Okay, so that's a really sort of, what's the word, elegant, classy approach to that, and with the fit and finish of it, it's just a perfect gentleman's knife. And then you have the K9, which is that same shape and form factor, just on steroids, which is, I mean, it's almost as if you've added, you've just exaggerated it a couple of degrees on the bend of the dog leg, a couple of extra millimeters on the expanse or the belly of the blade and the spear, but it all comes together really nicely. It has to be said.
It does need dropping in a bit of Rick dye and purple or something. a bit of like, well, 60s orange. What I would do is I would dip it in a little bit of dye. So one scale took one, so you didn't have to take the pins off or anything. Just drop it in like an orange one side, and I see red, bright red the other side, and then you've got like this amazing knife with multicolours. And I can see the steam coming through your head, Stephen. I can see it now.
About the ivory, Ben, does it discolor over age? Will it lose its color or luster?
Oh no, it gets better with time. It becomes more caramel colored.
Right.
So yeah, if you ever find a vintage piece in ivory, it's beautiful. It'll become, I don't know, caramel is the best way I can think to describe it. And when you look at it real close, you can see not layers exactly. It looks like ripples in there. It really is the most beautiful natural material available, in my opinion. It's really nice, but it's obviously very hard to get now.
There was a certain date, what is it, in the 30s that you can't buy before?
Yeah,
Or after?
it grandfathered in, and it depends on where you live, like what country you live. There's different rules. And then it was allowed to be sold interstate for a while. I don't really know too much of the specifics. All I know is it never gets
Yeah.
any easier to get, and it only gets
Yeah.
harder. And there's people trying to make it difficult to get the mammoth ivory, but it's like, come on, those things have been extinct
Yeah.
forever. Like, you just don't want us to have anything interesting. So this is a sow belly pattern, and this is a rabbit skinner blade.
Love that blade. Love
Yeah.
that blade.
Why?
That's not something. Yeah, it's not something I've seen an awful lot over here. I haven't seen many of that blade shape, I have to say. It is stunning.
These are obviously, this was later on in my collecting because I was willing to get things that were not as typical. In the beginning, you just want what's, the heavy hitters, but as you start getting down the road, you start to sort of find different stuff interesting. And this Skinner knife is neat. Look how
Are
nice.
they
see-
all by
hold
the, are they a set? Then are they all by the same designer?
Same guy. It just every year or two, I come up on his list, and he knows what I like. I told him to set aside this big piece of ivory he had in his collection for me, and we'll chip away at it every couple of years. So
Is this going to be terribly rude if I asked you, just out of interest, because it does interest me, what sort of a price is an ivory knife from a custom maker? Is it vastly dearer than the average custom?
So they've gone up since I bought the first one, but
Yeah.
and this guy, frankly, I think is probably the best kept secret in custom knives. I think
Right.
normally for one of his slip joints without ivory, between 600 and 700, and then for the
Honestly.
handle material, I think maybe there was like $100 or $150 upcharge for it. So it's sub 1,000, but you're really getting
That's flipping fantastic.
is for a different maker with the same stuff, he'll get you for 1,200.
Yeah.
This is what got me on the sort of hunt for these things. So I bought this one secondhand. This is a city knife, which was I think a Jess Horn pattern, or
Very
Loveless,
nice.
right?
That's
Bob
right.
Loveless.
Snyder done one very similar in that shape, didn't he, Jess Horn?
Yeah, I kind of forget some of the historical references, but this is by that same maker, Brett Dowell, and it's an ivory knife. And once I got my hands on this, I was like, oh yeah, like
Yeah,
this is
I have to say.
That is beautiful.
I look at, like, let's say, even if I were to, let's say someone paid $1,000 for an ivory dog leg single blade with the shield. Compare this to $1,000 modern folder, with titanium and maybe
No
some
comparison.
Damascus and stuff. Like, give me this all day.
Yeah, I know.
All
I'll
day,
take
every day.
it all day. Not
Would
knocking
that-
those things, but
Yeah.
holy cow.
That's organic, so you're never going to get that again. If you can't have ivory, well, it's gone. Titanium will always be in the ground. If you destroy that, once organic components are destroyed, they're gone. But with man-made or certain like things like titanium, you can just keep recycling it, keep mining it, whatever. But with stuff like horn, once the ivory's gone, it's gone. With things like titanium, you can just keep on reusing it. So that's what makes it. I think that's what, for me, makes that knife very special. The fact that you've got some very special scales on that, be custom made for you, that is irreplaceable. It's a one-time thing, isn't it? How many ivory knives are you going to get? You're not. You couldn't recycle that. You could reshape it, but you couldn't add to that ivory. Once it's gone, isn't it?
It's special. It really is.
It definitely is.
And yeah, I don't know. There's like this knife, you could take this knife backwards in time 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, right? And everyone would look at you and say, man, that's a beautiful pocket knife. But you take some of these modern knives back in time 100 years, people will be like, what planet did that come from?
Yeah, that's right. Bring a spider code back 200 years, and they'll be asking questions or burning you at the stake.
Yeah.
One or other of them, yeah.
Would you ever carry an ivory knife?
I've carried these. I don't make it a point of it. I'll carry them in a slip. And if there's heavy duty cutting to happen, I ain't going to use this. Like, I'll reach for something else. But it is a pleasure to carry them. But like, man, if I'm carrying it, it means I could drop it. If I drop this
Right.
thing, and
Nice.
crack it,
Yeah.
done.
I'm afraid that would be my complete fear. I wouldn't even put my hand in my pocket to take it out unless it was sitting on a couch.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
we'll have our threshold. Stephen was asking me if I'd been carrying the vampire, and I said sort of sheepishly, Ben, yeah, but I don't feel comfortable carrying it because it's probably the dearest knife in my collection, and it's just so lovely. But it's exactly the same principle. There's probably a threshold where you feel comfortable carrying a knife that you can drop and you can beat about a wee bit. But there are certain knives, nah, you're not going to do that, and that's obviously one or two of yours.
Over time, I've become a lot more comfortable just using things that are meant to be used.
Yeah.
You know, like if you buy a really nice watch, at first you're like, I don't even want to wear it because it's going to get a scratch, you know? And there's joy in looking at it, but there's way more joy in putting it on and wearing it and not worrying about the fact that it got a scratch. Now, you don't want to destroy it, obviously, you know, like dropping this knife would be bad because you would destroy it. But if you're careful and you carry it in the leather slip, you know, odds are you'll just go about your day and really enjoy this thing versus coming home from work, looking at it for 5 minutes and then putting it up in the safe.
Yeah.
Or carrying it with a secondary knife, which you use.
Right. As much
Yeah.
jewelry as anything else, right?
Yeah, that's what we call. That's what I call. I mean, the last time we were talking, we were saying that there are knives that are just pocket jewelry, and that's what you consider them as. It is it's a little bit absurd, but also an awful lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, if it's absurd, well, people from now all the way back till cavemen have been acting absurd
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
beautiful objects that they hold dear. So I think
Yeah,
it's
no,
almost
but
absurd to not find something that
yeah, no,
makes you
but
feel happy to carry.
I don't think a caveman was wandering around with a piece of flint and feeling bad if he dropped and smashed it. You know, I mean, I can't see that happening myself.
Well, okay, answer me this. If the caveman is sitting there and there's two clubs on the ground and one has a real, like, is all knotty and beautiful looking, but they both function both the same, do you think he's going to pick up the attractive club or?
Oh, okay, you got me there. Now, I have to say that I've never had a conversation about what choice of club I'm going to have. But, yeah.
I've got a funny feeling, cavemen, I think it's a documentary I watched, and obviously there's no proof, but I think they would pick up things like mammal teeth and animal teeth and use them as jewelry. Because I think there's some sort of things they find with holes that have been bored out with tools and that would have been worn as almost a piece of jewelry, or they'd have had this particular tooth or item they would have kept, like I said, we keep things and things. But I think the very beginning of nature, Ben is right. We carried things like teeth and things that were shiny and attracted to us, or we could gift to the females to sort of coax them over or whatever that was.
But Dan, you're right actually, because I mean they found all kinds of tools and weapons with all kinds of intricate carvings on them. So
yeah,
you're right. We've been doing it forever.
Custom making, Ben, is nothing new. I tell you, we can change these knives.
Yeah, I think the British Museum has got a collection of Paleolithic tools that have been dyed, and backfired to within an inch of their lives.
Yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Have you any more there, Ben, that have inspired you to maybe future blade designs?
Nothing here for the future other than, of course, you know, the sow belly. I do have the javelina jack, which hasn't come out yet.
Yeah.
So this inspired me there. And then I do have this Lanny's clip from Romano.
Oh,
This is Westinghouse micarta, which, boy, I'd be able to love to get full sheets of that stuff. But this
it's lovely.
Stuff, you know? But this was one I thought was interesting because this is the more traditional Tony Bowes style Lanny's clip.
Yeah.
Where I went more of the Pena style with shorter handle, wider handle. But this is a gorgeous knife. The fit and finish on this and the action is, you know, what these really nice knives allowed me to do was like understand where the bar is.
Yeah.
You know, this is the bar. Ricardo Romano, Enrique Pena, Ryu Kawamura, Brett Dowell. And if I had a Tony Bowes, like that's the bar. That's
Yeah.
the pinnacle. And so how do I measure up to these? And that's where I had the quality sort of desire to be like, guys who have used and handled these can recognize that this is a steal at $300 because fit in the finish and the action, while it's not a $1,200 knife, boy, it's blurring the line between this and something you get from Titusville.
I got this, the Pena knife, so that I could gauge it against your knives. And then I felt guilty because, oh, if I like something in this, am I going to be upsetting Ben as such, you know, if I do a review on it? And I sat down, it must have been last Monday or Tuesday night, and I took the knife out with your new knife. And I thought, do you want to know the difference between this and your knife? I think the fit and finish on this is every bit as good as the fit and finish on this. I like the sort of rounded edges on this a little bit more, but your blades and your blade shapes and your grinds are much better than this. Now this is just my opinion, and I love Pena, but then I realized what my sort of this isn't a Pena custom. This is Pena made like yours by somebody else. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It took away the myth of the Pena, if that makes any sense. This is a fabulous knife, absolutely fabulous. But I know this is your first time around, and Pena's been at it for years. But you're way up on the standards that I believe anybody that in a Pena is just fun. Yours is just super value, I think, and they're probably about the same price as the Pena. And I love this. I love it in hand, but in such a short space of time, you've got 6 or 7 knives out in the public that are up to the standard of a Pena. And I can say that without any embarrassment. They're up to that standard. And to me, because of the blades, they go a wee bit step further.
Just having my name in the conversation is extremely humbling, you know?
Yeah.
He's an incredible designer. He's got an eye for it. He knows how to make everything by hand to the highest level.
Yeah.
He's helped me understand the geometric principles of these designs, so I get feedback from him. I don't really have to ask him as many questions as I used to, but it's just nice to be able to stand on the shoulders of giants. You know, it's without it, absolutely. I wouldn't even know where to start.
And the old adage is, I mean, we're speaking to Ashley Harris and other custom makers I spoke to. I mean, you literally are standing on the shoulders of the people that you're coming after, because they have probably done, seen, and figured out most of the problems you're going to have. It's then just down to individuality in what you're going to make, the shape you're going to make.
Think about it like a timeless recipe, right? Like food.
Yeah.
It's like we hand these family dishes down, but it's like, oh, but great grandma made it this way and it was to die for, you know? And it's just because we have a chance to express our creativity, but within the confines of respecting what's been done in the past. I'll tell you what's neat about this community is that there are so many people willing to share, teach, answer questions, genuinely helpful, and want to see you succeed. Because without it, the knowledge will die, you know, like without guys willing to sit down in their shop and teach other people how to do it, without guys willing to write books, you know, and publish them. They're not getting rich off sharing that information. If anything, they're helping their competition, but it's not what it's about. It's about making sure that we can continue to produce this for people to enjoy, and so guys can make a living. And it's like this perfect circle of producers supporting consumers and consumers supporting producers, and it's great.
And I think if you go on YouTube and see some of Tony Bowes' videos that was done by what do you call the other fella? Rob Bixby went down and done interviews with him. They are some great videos, because he had young boys, and the young boys now are qualified knife makers and in their own right, but he let them come to his shop and let them ask him all the questions, watch what he was doing. That's fantastic. Them videos are just worth a watch for themselves. They're fantastic videos.
It's very similar to what we were talking to Ashley about in terms of the Sheffield industry and the way it's gone through. It's almost, I mean, it came very close to dying out completely,
Oh, very, yeah.
and it's only been the efforts of custom knife makers like himself, and is it Stephen Cocker as well?
Yeah, there's a few.
There's
Yeah,
a few
there's a
who are
few.
carrying it on, and even the news of I mean, when Ashley was telling us that he has an apprentice now, a young girl who's apprenticing in his in the factory. I mean, that's just such great news in terms of seeing that heritage continue from that particular perspective. So
Yeah.
it is lovely to see it going on instead of just dying out. So anything like the work you're doing in terms of designing this and keeping that tradition going in any way, shape, or form to keep people interested in them is going to
Yeah.
be a bonus for the whole the industry as a whole, really.
Yeah.
If, if that can be my mark, that I got people interested in slip joints, and maybe getting their foot in the door leads to someone with a penchant for history researching about Sheffield, England, and then finding out there's a dude named Ashley Harrison making knives by
Yeah.
hand, and he reaches out and he contacts him and he orders something. Like, that's the ripple effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the beauty of it. I mean, 50 years from now, someone, Stephen, some old agent like yourself is gonna be trying to get one of Ben's knives that are now 60 collector's editions. Okay, they're made of a crappy old fashioned steel M390 and all that, and they're using titanium and micarta scales instead of cobalt, radioactive uranium, plutonium
Oh God, we've got two dams.
scales going on, like
Full
because
carbon nitrate.
exactly because Dan's
Full
inspired
carbon
them
nitrate.
overnight, where everybody's glowing in the dark. But yeah, 50 years from now, people are going to be looking at these, going, "Yeah, you see the way those boys in the olden days made knives." Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever happened to Paddy's knives in his wee box?
Yeah.
Right round the coffin.
Right, exactly. Yep. Right there next to you.
Man, that was
That's what
brilliant.
probably will happen. I can't get any of my children interested in knives. My children or my grandchildren. I've got one grandchild who's a maybe, but I just can't get them interested. I am amazed at that.
I have some good news. My littlest daughter, she loves the knife office. She comes in and she sits on my, and the little one's 8, and because everyone knows I make a lot of put a lot of sack scales on and do a lot with the sacks. And she chooses the lanyards, she chooses the toothpick colours. She says, well, can we dye these on this colour? Then we take the custom scales out, and she take them on, she puts them on. She's like, I'm like, she's like what tools she wants on her custom and stuff like this. And she chooses a lot of the ones, but what I put out for sale, she's chosen what colours and what's on them. I just don't tell people this, and so when they come out, they like said they different colours, different accessories, perhaps an etch on them. It's because she said, oh, I asked her, what do you want to do? She's so fascinated by it. Obviously, she can't do anything because she's only 8. I let her put the scales, bits and pieces on, but she can't do anything with the blades. But she generally shows such a, I don't know, because she finds it fun, because I like wacky colours and stuff like that. But she really enjoys, and I hope in my heart of hearts that she goes on to continue to enjoy that. And I'm not asking her to do it for a job, but I hope she collects a few and buys a few off of the likes of Ben and people like that, and then maybe does her own sort of touch. And that'd be nice for, certainly for the younger generation, but for more women to get into it, more girls to get into the. I do, because it says on your stats, how on your social media, how many are male and female, and it is about 8 to 10% of my customers are actually, not 10%, 8% female, which is nice.
Which is good. But if you think about it, Dan, that's exactly the same thing. The same reason why Ben got involved in it. If his original origin story is to be believed, about his grandfather's knife. So you think about your daughter and the memories she'll have of messing around with her dad at work, with her dad doing his work with the knives. Even if she forgets it for 5 or 6 years, next time she sees a sack in a shop, or she sees a special knife, and she knows what it is and knows how it works, that's how it'll come back around again.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it's those memories and that nostalgia and all of those little influences in your childhood and in the background of it that really do bring it to bear further on. I mean, all I've got left, oh, the only hope I've got left is that my kids will remember at some stage when they're in their 30s that their mad dad was obsessed with knives, and maybe they'll start, poking around at knives and going, "Why was he so? Oh, oh, that's a nice one. Oh, then maybe that'll be what happens. Maybe that'll happen. I hope. Who knows?"
But that's what happened to me. I was in my 40s. Sorry, I was, yeah, probably near 40s. I was using like bushcraft tools and knives and things, but it wasn't until I hit 50 odd that I actually started collecting knives. So there's always a hope. I just haven't got any at the minute.
What about your kids? Are any of them involved or engaged in the family business?
No, not there. So my son is 10, my daughter's 12. They are, it's not that they're disinterested, but they don't have the same flame inside them for this stuff that I did when I was their age. I think my daughter is really artistic. She likes to paint, she likes to draw. And so some of the graphic art stuff I do with the labels and everything, she'll weigh in on that stuff. And she's happy to participate there. But she's very cautious. I think she's doesn't, when I was a kid, give me a sharp object, I had to have it,
Yeah.
But
it is a dying generation, because I mean the excitement when you got a new knife, even if it cost £1 from a slot and a wooden bit of board on it, you showed everybody you could that knife in school the next day. I mean, it was just, the joy of it was amazing.
It's funny though talking about kids, because the one I remember James from Twisted Assisted.
Uh-huh.
He had his kids at the Sharp Show in Coventry. So
Uh-huh.
I think his daughter is he calls her the lanyard queen or something like that. But she does braids and lanyards and paracord for all of the knives from Twisted Assisted. So she had a whole display in the Sharp Show. So he's got his kids very much involved with it. So it's lovely. It's lovely to see that it is.
Yeah.
Try to make it work, and we're failing miserably. So
I'd
Yeah.
love to get my kids involved in the business one day, but maybe when they're a little older, there'll be stuff for
Yeah.
them to do. It's like,
I was
otherwise
telling
you're gonna go get a job. So one way or another, you're gonna work.
Can I ask a question to you, Ben? Funny, just on this topic, have you had any new knife makers approached you for help in design, or in your side of it?
Yeah, you know what? More than I ever thought would ever happen, honestly, because it's not like I've got a long history of design chops
No.
under my belt. But yesterday, a total stranger, someone I've never met. I think we've communicated on Instagram a couple times, but he wrote me a message and said, "Hey," he goes, "You're the king of slip joints," and I'm thinking like, I'm definitely not the king of slip joints, but if that's your impression of me, I must be doing something right. And he
definitely.
said, "Can I show you my slip joint design? I want to know what you think." And so he texted me a picture of his pencil drawing. I helped Lefty and Colin Devo Knives.
Yeah.
They have a slip joint coming out soon, and I kind of help them with the tang geometry stuff. So yeah, I have people here and there definitely asking me what I think or sending me pictures and stuff, which I think is pretty
Isn't
cool.
isn't
Have
that
arrived.
fantastic in such a short space of time? That is amazing. That must give you a boost, a real just kick up the back, saying, this is going rightly.
Yeah, it does. It's sometimes I don't know how to process some of that stuff, right? Because I'm not the type to pat myself on my back, and I don't like to get overly confident, because that's
Yeah.
when you can really stumble and fall, when you stop being humble. But there's been people who have been really encouraging and have said some really nice things to me, and I think they're genuine. And yes, it's the most rewarding part about this, is knowing that there's people who believe in what you're doing and are satisfied with the work and can't wait to see what's coming next. And it's like, there's nothing more that I appreciate more than that kind of sentiment from people.
Well, speaking of which, Ben, speaking of which, and given our failure last time to get you to reveal, the thumbs are coming out, mate. What's coming next? I know the Cyborg Jack is out on Friday, and I know we have to go through get the whole process with this. But what's coming next? Can you give us a hint?
I'm trying to think. The only thing I would say, and I shouldn't say anything, but the only thing
Yes,
is that
we've
there's
got 'em, boys.
not another surprise coming up next. So it's something that y'all have seen before.
Good.
And if you really study the catalog, there isn't a whole lot left before we circle back around.
Is the catalog going to get updated at the end of the year?
We've still got some more knives to release. And then we're going to cycle back to the beginning. Now, as I've told everybody, something's going to change about the knife upon re-release. So I'm kind of working that out. Now, whether or not I'm going to tease the changes or surprise you with the changes, I seem to like to surprise you guys because when I come out with something no one's seen, I get the best reaction from that. It's like the most fun for
Exactly.
everyone.
Yeah, but it's not.
So
It's
you have
like
to really.
fun. It's not fun, Ben. It's cruel.
Oh, no. Would you want to wake up Christmas morning finding the present under the tree in a box, or would you want your parents like 3 days before to be like, yeah, we got you that bike, it's in the garage? You'd be like, oh yeah.
Exactly.
All right,
No.
Ben. All right.
No, you go away.
I always laugh at the person who you sit down with at the movies and you've seen the movie and they haven't, and they can't stop asking you like how it's gonna end or like what's happening next, or like what's gonna happen to him. It's like, you're gonna find out.
Just watch the movie. Ben,
Don't mind
as
at
always,
all.
it's been an absolute pleasure. Again, forgive me for being so hard on you this time.
Don't worry, I can take it.
Yeah, evidently you can.
Justin, you're not scary, mate. It's all right.
Well, look, I want to finally say thank you to Ben so much. I thoroughly enjoy this every month. I hope it can continue. We're available whenever Ben is. To my subscribers, thank you so much for watching. The interaction down below, I would love more of it. Let us hear what you think of the knives, and even after they've been released, let me know. So that Ben, let me tell you something. Ben checks every outlet I have. He checks within a day what's been written, and he also joins in with the conversations as well at times when he has time. But it's lovely to get that feedback from you of what you like or don't like. Either or is good, you know what I mean? But hopefully we're not going to get too much bad. But again, thank you so much. Thank you to the two boys. Couldn't do this without you. This is a really lovely outlet for me. And Ben, we'll see you next month when we'll be discussing your next child.
Right.
Anything you want to say to people to get hold of you or anything, Ben?
I would just say that if you want to know what's coming up next, you'll not miss the announcement if you sign up for the newsletter at the bottom of jackwolfknives.com.
Yeah.
And for the content that I produce the most, that'd be on Instagram. But we also have a Facebook group called Jack Wolf Knives Worldwide, and we've got a pretty good core group there as well. So never hesitate to reach out, say hello, tell me what you think.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks very much. Okay, take care, everybody. We'll see you next month for the same podcast.
Brilliant.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.